What's going on? This is Marcus. You're at the channel of the Debt Free Dad. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about financial foolishness, some craziness, a crazy story that I saw. I definitely want to hear y'all thoughts and opinions on it in the comments. Hey, before we jump in, hey, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, stepdads, uncles, big brothers, any guy out there who's a positive influence on another person. Hey, we appreciate you looking out, dropping jewels, dropping wisdom, because we want to make sure we're raising up all the younger generations the correct way. Salute to all of y'all. Now, let's talk about this financial foolishness. Anytime I do this, there's always a financial nexus to the story, but this is just a story that I saw that was just so crazy, I actually had to talk about it. Hey, you might know what the story is from the thumbnail. We'll go to the table and talk about it. But the financial moral of the story is, like Tupac said, you ain't got a lie to kick it. It makes no sense trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to impress people with what you have. Anybody who's a mature adult, who's been in the game, who's been around the block, who got kicked in the ass by life a few times is going to know that, hey, people are judged based on how they carry themselves. People are judged based on who they can help, not necessarily what they have. And then the other side of that is, hey, you can have all the stuff in the world, and if people going to not rock with you and hate you, they're going to not rock with you. And that's just kind of how it is. So having that stuff doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to rock with you. They may hate you more. So let's jump into it. Y'all let me know how ridiculous this story is, who gets most of the blame. I give y'all my opinions. Let's go ahead and dive in. In this financial foolishness award, it goes to Mr. Courtney Wilson and Miss Shnita Jones. There is a financial lesson here that we can definitely take away. It's not necessarily to make fun of them at their expense, although it is freaking ridiculous. But I guess the moral of it from a financial standpoint is it's not cool to try to impress and keep up with the Joneses and worry about impressing people with what you have. It's just corny, and it's something that's just not sustainable. Mr. Courtney Wilson and Miss Jones, they were engaged. They were planning to have their wedding at this beautiful $5.4 million estate that sits on like 7.5 acres. Bowling alley, movie theater, 15 bedrooms, Olympic style pool. I mean, beautiful estate in Florida. This property was for sale by Mr. and Mrs. Finkel. Now, I actually did some research to find out who these people are. Well, Mr. Finkel is the heir to Abe Finkel. Abe Finkel is the founder of IHOP restaurant. So these people got money on money, stacks and stacks on stacks. And so essentially, at some point while this house was listed for sale, Mr. Williams and his fiance ultimately decided that, hey, we're going to go check out this property. So the realtor went, showed them around. They fell in love with the property. I don't know if the property was out of their price range. I'm going to assume that they couldn't afford the $5.4 million to purchase it, but they decided to have their wedding there nonetheless. They thought that no one was in the property because it was listed for sale, so they planned a wedding with over 200 guests at this facility, and the following day, the day after the wedding, they were planning to have brunch there. They actually spent money on catering service, bands, they sent out invitations. At one point, Mrs. Finkel received a copy of the wedding invitation from her realtor and asked her about it, but Mrs. Finkel was confused. It was like, nah, we don't know anything. Unbeknownst to Mr. Wilson and his wife, the Finkel still resided on the compound, but they lived in a residence that was separate from the mansion. So people started showing up, caterers, bands, guests. Over 200 people started to show up, and Mr. Finkel was like, what in the hell? He looked out, saw all of these people there, and, called the authorities. This was in Florida. He called 911. Well, 911, the police showed up. They got everybody out of there. Ultimately, lucky for Mr. Wilson, they didn't press charges or anything. But that's just kind of how the story ended. Of course, the media tried to reach out to the couple for a story, but of course they were unable to get in contact with them because I know they probably look goofy. But hey, there's a few takeaways from this story. All right, first is love is beautiful, black love is beautiful, but this was just stupidity. And the funniest thing about the story is the couple informed Mr. Finkel that God told them that they were supposed to have their wedding at that mansion. I was like, how they gonna lie? How you gonna lie on God? Of all the people you can lie on, you gonna lie on God? God ain't tell you no stuff like that. That's ridiculous. But in any event, the takeaways from a financial standpoint are a few things. Is don't worry about impressing people with what you have. I mean, it's just something that's unsustainable. It's kind of like how social media is. If you look, especially amongst teenagers, there's a high depression rate and suicide rate that is prevalent in our society because of social media. And it's like regular people are trying to keep up with fake lives of other people that they see on social media, and it's unsustainable. Like, it's like me trying to win a race against somebody same athletic ability but who's on steroids. It's just impossible. I won't be able to do it, and it's kind of that same concept. If you're hanging around people who, if you're hanging around people who judge you for what you have, one, you probably need a new group of friends. And two, what you have isn't important in this life. Anybody who's an adult, anybody who's lived, they're going to understand it's more about how you carry yourself as a person. Who can you help? It's really wild to try to please people that bad. And as a matter of course, I'm blaming all of this on Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, you get 75% of this blame because it had to be a joint venture of stupidity to move forward with this. He couldn't do it on his own unilaterally. He had to have some conversations with his fiance to do it. But at some point in time, and in credit to him, he probably was just trying to keep his woman happy. But at some point in time, you as a person with common sense should think, man, if this, we care about people so much, we're willing to try to have a wedding at a mansion that isn't even ours to see if we can get away with it. But if you really cared about what people think, you ever think of the outcome if, what if this whole thing blows up in our face? If you wanted to look like a non-baller, congratulations, you all won the award. Having a wedding at a mansion that you don't own, that you were trespassing on, and now all your friends know about it, you look like the jackass of the year. So from a common sense standpoint, it was stupid as hell. I think the other thing too is there are a few type of people in this world who can really afford nice things, and having nice things as well is great. And I want everybody to have nice things, but you have one group of people, but you have one group of persons who had nice things, and they had those nice things because they were willing to make sacrifices that most people weren't willing to make. They were willing to make the sacrifice to go to school. They were willing to make the sacrifice to pay off their debt and to get control of their finances. They were willing to make the sacrifice to save up their money, plan for retirement. So you have that group of people who, hey, we can get nice things because we made sacrifices in the past. Then you have the opposite end of the spectrum is people who get nice things and they can't afford those things. And that leads you to a road of disaster and despair. Getting out of debt is hard and being ass broke is hard. But the thing is, when you change your mind and make up your mind to do something different, getting out of debt and the difficulties that come with getting out of debt is temporarily. If you stuck on pleasing people and showing off what you have and spending more than what you make, that's a cycle that you'll be in for a lifetime if you don't decide to make a change. We don't want fake or false validation. I mean, fake or false validation is really irrelevant because people are going to judge you whether you have it. People are going to judge you whether you don't have it. It's so many people, so many millionaires and billionaires, and they have everything at their disposal, but they commit suicide, they're on drugs, they're depressed. I mean, having money and the ability to buy things is nice and cool, but don't do it at the expense of financial mistakes and being burdened with debt, burdened with payments. If you want a nice car, feel free to get you a nice car. But in my eyes, if my car note is more than what I'm actually investing for my retirement every month, I'm wrong, and that's just a car that I'm not going to have. But this is really the craziest story I've ever heard in my life. So who do you all think gets the blame for this? Like, it's financial foolishness on a couple of aspects. It's financial foolishness because, one, you didn't even own it and you didn't even think of the consequences if your plan didn't go through. And the other thing is, hey, I'm all for saving money, but this is a dumbass way to save money. Like, somebody got to do better. So I want to know, one, is this couple even still together? Because I don't know. Like I said, I'm putting most of the blame on Mr. Wilson. I know they made this joint decision to do it, but at the end of the day, somebody gotta have a level head. You can't have two people stuck on stupid. That's gonna be an utter disaster. And that's kind of what we got here. Two people who care about what everybody else think, and now everybody else think they some clowns, all because all because they wanted to have a wedding at a place that they couldn't afford. I mean, it's just crazy. The other thing is, hey, y'all know my opinion. You in Florida, the last place you want to go on somebody's property and be a trespasser, in my opinion, is Florida. You better do that in New York or somewhere where their firearm laws are a little bit lax. Most people who don't rock with you, it may not be because of what you have or what you don't have. It may just be because they aren't comfortable with who they are. So trying to impress them is actually worthless, in my opinion. I don't know one woman who would be like, yeah, honey, that's a good idea. There's nobody there. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's have a whole host of black people show up to this wedding. Let's have a whole gang of black people show up to this wedding in this house in this neighborhood that nobody ever seen us in, and we think everything is gonna be sweet. It ain't gonna be sweet. They lucky they didn't get shot. That's the craziest story ever. That's definitely the financial foolishness award. I mean, damn, marriage or mortgage, that's marriage or moron. But you know, that's the financial foolishness award. They may have the financial foolishness award for 2021 because that's the most idiotic thing I ever seen in my life. I just can't believe it. I'll put a link in the description box to the actual story. And ladies, y'all let me know. Fellas, y'all let me know what y'all think. I know this story is crazy. Did you give them equal blame? I put most of the blame on the husband. Hey, as the husband, the head of the household, sometimes it's your job to cut off stupidity before it happens. I mean, it's both spouses, it's both individuals' job, but at some point you gotta be like, hey, honey, I want to do this for you. I want you to have your dream wedding, but goddamn, we just gotta save up some more or something. I don't know. That was it. Y'all take care. Have a good Sunday. Be blessed. Peace.